Boom. We're rolling. All right, boss. I didn't know it'd been that long since we first met. Like I was like, oh,
How long?
maybe it'd been like 3 years ago or something, but it's probably about 6 years ago now.
No,
5,
it
6
is.
years ago.
It is. No, I would say we met in 2016 or 2017.
2016. Is it 2016? I don't know. How old would I be there?
Maybe it is 5 years. 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Central Manchester doing level 1.
Yeah.
Great box, great
Oh,
city.
yes, it was. Yeah, it is 6 years. You're right. You're
Damn.
right.
Have you
Time
done
flies.
your level 2 yet?
I thought I met you at level 2,
No,
but I didn't. Okay.
I did my level 2 in the same box at Central Manchester. Oh,
Well, maybe
maybe.
I met you there.
Oh, I
I
don't
did meet
know.
you at level 2.
I can't remember what I did this morning.
They're all a blur now, but I had absolutely zero reason to be at level 2 because I've never coached in a CrossFit gym. So what was I doing? I just thought, you know what, level 1 was good. I learned some stuff. Maybe I'll do level 2 and learn some more stuff. And it was completely, I had no business being there. But anyway, I met you. I met some really lovely people. So
What made you do the whole fitness journey?
Oh, this is a very long one.
Go for
Mental
it.
health. Mental health. I was not athletic at all, I would say. I was just sort of at school. I was just a social. I would just get involved in fitness or like fitness activities just for the social element. Like we would go skiing at the weekend. We had like this chemistry tutor who took us outdoors a lot. I would get involved in anything that he would start, like canoeing and climbing and skiing. He would take us outside, but I was not in an organized sport. Like I was not in a team. Hand-to-eye coordination was terrible, so I was never in ball games. I did ballet,
Oh.
but like I was totally the wrong shape. Yeah, I wasn't really into a sport. Had never really been through a really rigorous training plan. But then at uni, I sort of went to the gym because I just needed some de-stressing. So it started at uni, really. I think around 19, I like took out a subscription at the YMCA next door because it was next door, and just did classes. And I think then got into running because I had friends who were running. And then I got into this group that it was basically like 5 or 6 of us. And it was like friends basically. And we would take turns to plan a circuit and we would all do the circuit. Like we would plan a workout for the group. And one of those guys was into CrossFit. And at the time I was running, and then he planned like this 15-minute workout that destroyed me. And I was like, what was this? Because I've run a marathon and I didn't get quite so destroyed. Yeah. And I am still feeling this 15-minute workout of yours. And I just kind of got curious and just basically would follow him around. But maybe not quite so stalkerish, but I basically like wanted to get to know him because it turned out he was the kind of person who would you'd throw him into anything new and he would just nail it first time. And I was so jealous and annoyed. I was like, how does he do that? You know? Yeah. Like we all went with a group skiing, and he hadn't snowboarded before. Nailed it. We went to the sea, like to Crete, with a bunch of people. He had never done water skiing or wakeboarding before. Nailed that. I was like, how do you do that? And then of course it was CrossFit, because you know the fundamental movements are the same, the fundamental movement patterns are the same, and he'd played a lot of maybe he played rugby. I don't know. Anyway, he was a good mover. I thought, I can't remember at which point. I also had another friend who had started working for a CrossFit gym. She had a banking job and probably got fed up of it, had like a little crisis, and thought, you know what, I'll just take a break and just do what I love. So she decided to work part-time for this gym, this CrossFit gym, and just be like gym manager or just help with the running of it. And at the time, I had given up my architecture job. Well, I had given up the career completely and was, I can't remember at what point, but I worked for a church for 2 years, basically, took a complete break, didn't know what I wanted to do. Because when you're into something full time and just kind of being a workaholic, you don't really have time to think, what else would I be doing with my life? So I didn't know, I didn't have a clue. But working for this church charity, they gave me a lot of time, a lot of counseling. And I was like, you know what? I love fitness. I really like fitness. So I did a lot of volunteering, like helping people to run, and decided to do my personal training certificate at that time. And then I had this friend who kind of in a similar vein quit her job and went to work for this gym. And she said, you should check out my gym. And I was like, sure. At the time, I really wanted to I wanted to find an adult gymnastics club. And I didn't realize how ambitious that was for someone like me, who was like, had never done gymnastics, had serious mobility problems. In my head, I didn't realize how many problems I had, because with running, you don't really realize, as long as you have an engine and you have like a mindset of like, just keep going, you're good, you're golden. Like, you don't realize, can I actually handstand? So I went to check out various adult gymnastics classes in London, and didn't have any luck. Well, actually, I had luck with one club, and one day I got injured, and so I was a little bit pissed off. And anyway, I get this call so my friend says, okay, I'll have you come here and check out this gym. So the next thing I know, I get this call from someone at that gym, and he's like, so why do you want to start CrossFit? I was like, whoa. But I panicked, and I told the truth. I was like, I actually really want to learn gymnastics. But I'm a complete beginner. I don't know anything. And he's like, okay, I can work with that. So I knew that there was gymnastics in CrossFit, but I didn't know what else there was. And don't ask me how I knew this, because I'd never been in a CrossFit class ever. But anyway, the way that gym worked was you'd have 10 one-on-one PT sessions before you could join a class. So I basically paid up front for those PT sessions. And I was like, cool. So I'll come on Tuesday. So then during those 10 classes, we went through all the fundamental movements. And I still hadn't seen what a CrossFit class looked like. So I think by the 8th session, I actually saw a class, like they were coming back from a run and they all looked like death. And I was like, what am I doing? I was like, oh my gosh, suddenly panicked. But, I'd committed by that point. I'm like, this is interesting. It's for someone who gets bored quite easily. There's enough movements that you will never, ever, ever exhaust anything. So I was like, this is going to keep me motivated for a long time. Yeah. And basically the rest is history. That's exactly how it worked. Like, I was so out of my depth with everything. And I was lucky that gym took coaching really seriously. And it felt like a fitness school to me, to like a complete, perhaps now if I went in, it would feel less so. But at the time I was like, this is like university. I'm learning like a ton every day. Everyone wants to see me improve. Like, there was no moment when I was left uncoached. Like, even if I went to open gym, there was a supervisor there, supervising coach. They would come up to me and tell me how to do things better. It was so off the charts, like good in that sense. And yeah, that set me off on a really good path. But I mean, I was so clueless. Like, I look at I've got videos from that time. They are, one day, you know, I'm going to start posting them because they are absolute comedy.
Nah, I wish I had videos of when I first started. Like, I remember my overhead squat was basically out here. It was pretty much a bench press. Like, I couldn't squat like halfway down, never mind all the way down. I'd played ruggers, and then I'd got injured for a while, so I was basically bedridden. So like my body was just fucked. And I was just like trying to move, and it was like, nah. I basically just had the head to just like dig myself a grave and shove myself in it. But other than that, like, I just couldn't do anything, mate. Like a handstand, I think the first time I tried to kick up into a wall, I went through the wall. You know, one of those where you kick up and then you just like buckle your elbows and you end up doing a somersault down the wall. I think I ended up doing something daft like that. I was like, oh dear, this is quite embarrassing.
Sounds like you had a lot of power, though.
I mean, I'm glad, I'm grateful it was a brick wall, not like a like one of those fake walls. I would have gone straight through it.
Wow, that's so cool. I appreciate you saying that, because I think unless if you haven't been a beginner at something, you can't appreciate like the whole journey of like getting better at it.
And CrossFit's one of those things where like everyone's going to be a beginner at something. Whether you were a gymnast and you can absolutely smash all the gymnastics, but you have no engine, or you have like no lower body strength for any Olympic lifts or anything like that, like everyone's going to be a beginner at something. And it's always like, the CrossFit, it's all kind of combined into one. So everyone's just kind of there in the pain cave together, just like, all right, I'm with you, sort of thing. We've only got another 13 minutes left of this hellhole. Let's try and get through it.
Yeah. I think for me, the embarrassing thing is that I thought, because I think skill is important to me, and it was embarrassing that I couldn't get into the positions, because from ballet, you are told, these are the positions, you need to nail them. Otherwise you just look so out of place. And it's all about looking a certain way. And so, when it comes to like anything, a squat, overhead squat, handstand, blah, 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 if you can't get into the position, that to me was really humiliating. Like, I didn't care if I couldn't finish a run or whatever. Like, I had the engine because I was running for a long time. So, but if you had said, if I was getting out of breath, maybe I'd be embarrassed about that. But I was never embarrassed about engine stuff. I was like, whatever, man. But I was really embarrassed about not being able to get into the positions. And it taught me a lot about, because I had a corporate job before. I trained to be an architect, and I was basically an architect, and I would go, my day was largely office, desk based, unless I had to go visit a site. But the majority of the work was done at a desk. And yeah, okay, I would go up steps and come, run around the office a little bit, but I was in some really shitty positions all day long, like this, and like, really hunched, and who knows. I just forgot everything that I learned in ballet about posture. Completely went out the window, and I was just doing very long hours in really shitty positions. And then trying to get out of that lifestyle into a, squat with your butt down and your chest upright and your shoulders back, and show me your overhead squat, and, do your wall slides and all that stuff. I was like, how did I get here? And I still am very much into Kelly Starrett. Your body works like this, and you need to do this. And I'm passionate about, I don't know, like educating others on that one, because, we have become very sedentary animals, and we weren't originally. We were used to being out in the fields. And now it's, unless you've been in a sport and you've been quite athletic in the past, the modern lifestyle is going to screw you over in that sense. It doesn't lead to good positions in the gym, and it doesn't help you develop athleticism. So that was my big takeaway from CrossFit, that, if you want to do well, you have to help yourself in the rest of your day, not the 1 hour that you're in the gym, but the 23 hours outside.
If anyone's going to take anything away from this, I want them to take that sentence right there.
Yeah. I can tell you, I mean, I did this past lockdown really helped me. I did actually a few things helped me. I was so I can share with you, there's a piece that Marcus Philly wrote about his journey through CrossFit, where in the beginning you're like all guns blazing, you're just giving it your all, it's amazing, it's the best thing you've ever experienced, why didn't I know about this? Like, you're going at it with everything you have. And then first 2 years are amazing. Like, every workout is a chance to go all out and as heavy as possible, as fast as possible. You're like blood, sweat, everything. And then some things start to not work quite so well. Like, maybe you got a little niggle, maybe like your back. I tweaked my back a little bit. Maybe you did that, or maybe, everyone experiences something in year 3, basically. And I didn't know that this was like, a thing until I read this article, and he just talks about under recovering, not necessarily, overtraining, but just under recovering. Like, the pace at which you train does not match the pace at which you're recovering. So maybe you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating enough, you're just stressed in other areas of life. So CrossFit ends up starting to hurt you. And so your body starts to give, I had back pain. I then just realized that I had apparently fractured my wrist, and I didn't know. A few things. And anyway, by year 4, I was so broken that I had to do one-arm burpees and, weird things like that at the open. And I was miserable. I was like, this thing that I love, I can't take part in. And I basically had to do a lot of mobility and a lot of other stuff, like functional bodybuilding and single arm, single leg, everything, and just bring my body back into balance and understand that the way I had been, I still wasn't mobile enough, but I was forcing the positions with weight. And, that wasn't going to fly. Like, let your body acquire that range before you pile weight onto it, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to force it to go there. So lots of mistakes. So essentially, if you skip steps, you have to go back and retake those steps a lot later.
Comes back and bites you in the ass.
Instead of yeah, it does. And so my steps, I missed so many steps. Missed the mobility step and the strength step. Like, I was like, hey man, I can complete this workout. Like, why do I need to get stronger? But there is a plateau. If you don't get stronger, you can't move on. So yeah, I spent last year, I spent lockdown 1 doing mobility and literally single-sided work. And I've done that pretty much most of the year. And now I am, basically just doing strength work. Like, I did one hero workout in November, and I think I was sore for 2 weeks, and I was like, why did I do that? Let's just go back to what I need to be doing.
Yeah. A hero workout is not something you should just jump in and out of. Like, fuck me, it'll crush you.
But, I didn't think twice about it. I was like, it wasn't a famous hero. Like, it wasn't Murph. So I was like, maybe it's just a minor hero workout. Oh shit! I forgot that we're recording. But I guess what I'm trying to say is these things pop up in the program unannounced. it didn't look anything threatening. That's probably the best explanation.
They're the
But
worst ones, right?
perhaps, yes.
Like what
Yeah.
what did we do the other day? Tuesday. So 2 days ago we did like 600 meter, 400 meter, 200 meter run, and then in between you do a max effort of chest to bar. Granted, like I'm not really done max effort chest to bar in a while, bit deconditioned to it, but I'm wrecked from like 3 sets of gymnastics. I'm wrecked. And it's just like, oh, that looks really simple on paper, and it just absolutely destroys you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, there's great things in CrossFit. Obviously, it's just everyone has different needs, and I really want to. I never want to leave it, but at the moment my prescription is lots more strength work and mobility work, and like a lot less conditioning, a lot less CrossFit. Still quite a bit of conditioning, but yeah. But it's interesting times. Like the Open is going to be done at home, it seems, and yeah, that's it's a new one.
Yeah, it's dead interesting.
I mean, you guys haven't.
Sorry, go on.
I over here we're like in a serious lockdown, whereas you guys, I'm guessing gyms are open over there.
Yeah, man, we've been we had 4 weeks of total lockdown. We had 2 weeks of a little bit of a less restriction sort of kind of lockdown, and then we've been business as usual since then. Obviously the country still had to recover from all that. Like they did really well with the subsidies, keeping businesses afloat and things like that. And obviously they have like less than 5 million population, which is like less than half of London alone. Like it's crazy. And then this island, like being on the South Island, there is about 1 million people or less than 1 million people on this entire island.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a completely different like way of life.
How did you end up on the absolute other side of the world?
Well, if you're gonna do it right? So if you're gonna run away from home, don't go around the corner to the local chip shop. You might as well get on a plane and fuck off. No, so I always wanted to go New Zealand. I think the seed was planted, like thinking back, as you do. Everyone's got 20/20 vision in hindsight. Like I remember watching a rugby league game with my dad when I was a right young kid, and I remember him saying like, "Oh, New Zealand, I've always wanted to go there." And I think that's when the seed was planted in my head. I was like, "Oh yeah, New Zealand, it's a cool place." You know what I mean? Just being a kid and kind of thinking whatever your parents say is absolute gospel. And then I naturally came to a kind of end where I was working. I'd been working there for like 3 years. Like, you know, one thing led to another, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've got 2 years. Me and my brother decided we got 2 years before we were going to start something. And then I was like, what do I do? Do I stay on for another 2 years and stay in that comfort zone? Do I go home for 2 years, establish myself back home in Manchester? Like I miss my city, and I always miss my city. Or do I just like fuck off somewhere else? So I pinged out my CV to CrossFit Yas, where I was first introduced to like this video interview questionnaire sort of shit, where you've got to like click a button and you have like 10 seconds to answer. It was really surreal, really weird. I got through the first one, which was kind of cool. And then the second one, I don't know, I probably said something I shouldn't, because knowing me, I'm a bit potty mouthed. I never made it to the third. I was like, okay, cool, that's that door closed. I sent one out to.
What questions was it?
Hey.
What sort of questions were they?
It was like I think one was typical like experience. What have you done in the whole like fitness scene? I was like, okay, cool. I can give you a couple stuff there. And then I remember one of them being, I think this is the one where they were like, yeah, nah, not this fella. It was like, oh, so what would you say was like your worst trait? And I think I remember saying something like, well, I'm Northern, so I swear a lot.
Oh,
And no, it's, it's UAE, it's the Middle East. They might have taken that a little bit to heart. I don't really know. I'd been to Dubai, but like kind of been through it, spent a couple of days there. So I didn't really know the culture too well, and they were probably like, yeah, fuck this lad off. Like we're not taking him. But that's fine. Yeah, I was tempted to go to Canada. Like I kind of flicked over there, like my CV, and they were like, yeah, flick through this brochure. Like if you marry up with our sort of philosophy and our ethics and values in this gym, then we'd be happy to take you on and come through the system. I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Thank you very much. And then I ended up kind of getting the same thing, but a little bit less wordy of a gym in Auckland was like, hey, if you come over, you've got a job. And I kind of sent him a message saying, are you taking the piss? It's a bit far.
Where's my 3-round questionnaire over Zoom?
Yeah. And he was like, no. Like, I think we had the second time I had an email with him. We were on a Skype interview. And it was funny because obviously with the time difference, I'd just woken up. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I was only in my boxers from the pants down, and obviously I had my phone, and I was like obviously not showing like my entire body. That would have been a bit weird. So I was just sat there on my couch in my flat in the south of England. I was just like, are you taking the piss? Is there actually a job here? And he was like, yeah, you get on a plane, we've got a job. We've done it quite a few times from people from France, from the Netherlands, from the UK, whatever, Canada. I was like, all right, wicked. It sounds like a great opportunity. And I think about 3 weeks later, I landed.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I was like,
very
fuck
cool.
it, why not?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta,
yeah, absolutely.
You gotta take these opportunities, right? And you got to, what did he say? What did I say yesterday? Hard work and patience equals opportunity.
Yeah, but also, you have to. I think living abroad, wherever that might be, is such a useful thing in life. Otherwise the world is just too unified now to not have that experience.
Yeah.
It just gives you a different perspective. It makes you more inclusive. If you're going to run a gym, you want to be able to identify with different people who are not like you, basically. And it really helps to just be on the side of the outsider,
100%.
at least once in your life, to be like, I think that's great that you've done it. And just getting outside your comfort zone really all the time, that's also huge, because you could easily have started something in the UK, but as for the rest of your life, this is going to serve you, I think.
100%. And like, I think the biggest takeaway I've had so far is communication. Is like, like you would know, you'd have met Northerners in your time in the UK. Like we're kind of a bit set in our ways, and we kind of say what's on our mind, and it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? You just take it in your stride, and every language is common language, so you can just say whatever the fuck you want to say. But kind of being over here, you're like, all right, what do you mean? Like, why am I getting weird looks for saying something? You know what I mean? Why are you getting all touchy-feely of like, I just said, don't be a dick. Or I just say, what the fuck are you doing? Or whatever. And they're like, oh, why are you shouting at me? I was like, hold on. Like, I'm not said anything. You know what I mean? So it's being able to communicate with different groups of people. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. People are all bitches.
I think it was the opposite for me, coming from Greece to the UK, to the south, I should say.
Yeah. Much
would have been a different situation if I'd come to Manchester.
Yeah.
It would, in Greece, people, I mean, I won't speak for the whole of Greece, but I'm used to people telling me, oh, you've got fat, or, I don't know, people being super blunt. You wouldn't imagine doing this here.
Fuck no.
So, I'm exaggerating, but you know, it's that sort of, you get immediate feedback, or people are super blunt where I'm from, which is the complete opposite in the south of England. So I've had to adjust to getting less feedback and being a bit more careful. And I think for a while that threw me on the other side of, well, I won't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you find the balance. But yeah, I think it's huge. And I guess you find language that's respectful to everyone and doesn't offend anyone, but at the same time you want to make a point. So
Yeah.
it's an art. Communication is an art.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, like being able to, like, it even touches on like visual cues that me and Shots spoke about this week. We're both learning a bit of sign language so we can communicate, you know, with people that are hearing impaired or deaf. But hey,
I saw that on your Instagram. That's amazing.
yeah, like it's an art that has been overlooked. You know what I mean? Like I was speaking. I've got one of my athletes. She's hearing impaired, and she says it's actually easier to learn sign than it is to teach kids how to speak English. Like, as you will know, English is just screwed. Every law we have in the English language is broken about 5 times. And I still don't even understand the language that comes out of my mouth anyway. So like, and I was thinking about it, I was like, all right, if I was in a class, which I've been coaching a class before, and I've had a fellow who's been hearing impaired, and you know, being a bit younger, not really knowing any sign, only could say my name in the UK sign language, and that's not really going to help much. I'd kind of just have to place myself in a class where obviously you have 2 lines. I'd be right at the front, but I would be off center, so I'd be more towards where I'm kind of face to face with this fella. So Max could end up seeing my mouth a bit more. And it was actually really cool because he also came up to me and was like, Alex, you mumble a lot and you kind of slur your words. And I was like, oh, I never really noticed. You know what I mean? Like, people understand what I say back in Manchester, and that's because I am fucking Mike, so it makes sense. He was like, yeah, like obviously the way you pronounce some like vowels are a bit different and blah, blah, blah. Can you just like pronunciate a little bit more? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And it kind of made me like conscious of that. And instead of like talking and turning around and looking at the board and continuing talking, I would I'd say what I'd need to say. I'd take a pause. I would get whatever I needed to from the board, and I'd turn around and start talking again.
Yeah.
And all those little experiences kind of add up. And I was like, you know what? Like, we're trying to unify people in health and fitness, right? For physical and mental well-being. Yet we're alienating so many people because we're not taking the time to educate ourselves on how to communicate with our hands or with our body language. And we're talked about, you know, you got to stand tall and confident and proud, so it looks like you want to be there. Like, if you're wearing a hoodie, don't have your hood up because it looks like you don't give a shit. And you're taught all this like body language, but we're never actually taught how to communicate sign. And I don't know, it kind of it especially having this athlete page, like she teaches me a little bit, and it kind of I thought about it for a couple of days, and I was like, you know what, you're going to think about this for the rest of your life, or you're going to pull your fucking thumb out your ass and you're going to start learning it. And I was just like, okay, cool, like that's it, I'm gonna start learning this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I don't know, being able to coach a class.
I think it's important.
Sorry, mate, go on.
You're breaking up a little bit. That's why maybe we No, I can see you now.
Right, cool.
Yeah, I think it's important to be served that message gently and not like, you know, everyone is on a journey of improving, right? And you know, everyone has the best intentions of coaching people. Everyone has a slightly different style, and every day that you're going there, you're coaching, you're contributing. You can only make it better. I was coaching classes for a while in a Globo gym, and the system there was quite, this is slightly off topic now, but the system was quite, they didn't want you to give too many cues. They wanted you to be a bit more of a, I want to say cheerleader, but I will say cheerleader just for lack of a better word. But basically someone very enthusiastic who can hype people up to do better. And my problem with that is it doesn't work on me. So therefore I try not to push it on other people. So if you start shouting next to me, go harder, faster, blah, I sort of go the other direction. Like I just want to give up because I have my own mental game. My own head is telling me stuff. And so if you shout on top of that, it's just too much. So I was always sort of going up, going next to people, going like gently, like, hey, have you thought of like, try and do this, like basically one cue, but quite quietly, like to one person at a time. And the main group X person was like, what are you doing? Like, you need to be a cheerleader. You can't be a PT in a class. And I was like, man, this is not going to fly. So eventually I started PTing rather than doing classes. But in CrossFit, obviously, there's a huge coaching component. So all that stuff is appreciated. But I think, yeah, like everyone, we're all getting better every single day. Like you're lucky. Not everyone has a hearing impaired person in their class. Like I would say very few do. So I think that's huge for you to getting thrown all the lessons.
Yeah, man, like kind of
the country.
Yeah, fucking throws it all at me. But like, I don't know, like, is it the fact of people have not just been lucky to get someone who's hearing impaired or completely deaf in their class, or is it they don't join because they're scared that they won't be able to understand and they can't hear? Like, if you
I
look,
imagine the second,
yeah, like we're not. I think we can do better. As CrossFit as a whole, as coaches as a whole, I think we can do better. I think we can offer more options for people so it's more accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or that's me anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's so many, I was really encouraged by that post you posted, because I think you can use Instagram in so many different ways. Some are, crap, and some are so useful. Like I learn so much every time I go on it. And yeah, like I don't know really how you get the message out there that we are a disability friendly gym. I've not been in that place before. Actually, maybe I have in a small way, but yeah, it's definitely a message worth spreading, right? We the more diversity, the better, and the more inclusivity, the better. I don't know, in my short time working in a global gym, I think I saw like one disabled person come through the doors, but it also was a particular gym. It had stairs down to the basement and a lift down. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't get that many. There's definitely an intimidation factor, right? Like you'd have to be a pretty confident person to walk into a gym where you don't know the coaches personally, and you don't know if they'll look after you basically, or if you're going to look completely lost.
It's the whole thing of even something so simple as having a ramp into your gym, having it wheelchair accessible.
Yeah. You know what? I will always say, because that was my experience. I was invited into CrossFit. Had it been, I would never have joined on my own. I wouldn't know. It took this girl to say, hey, you should join my gym. Otherwise, and so I think to generalize that, it takes an invite. If you say to somebody, come and take a look, just come once, there's absolutely no pressure, just come check it out, because that's how I was invited, just come. Then there's no harm done, right? They can come once, never come again if they don't like it. But if they really like it, that one time is going to get them hooked. I think there's all sorts of things we could do personally. I always believe in the personal invite, even though in the beginning I thought, wow, Instagram, I'm going to shout about it on Instagram and it's going to work. And oh no, like nothing works if it's such a shouty message to everyone. It's all about people want to feel like, you know, it's a personal message to them, right? Like, I've thought of you, I want you to join me. I don't even know. Well, I know 2 hearing impaired people. One lives in the States and she is absolutely killing it. I think she's if she's not on the adaptive seminar staff, she's helping them do all sorts of things. And the other is in the UK, and I did an event once that included yoga, and she came and she said to me afterwards, you realize that as a deaf person, yoga is a nightmare. Like, it's not relaxing at all because I can't close my eyes, otherwise I'm going to miss something. And I was like, how did I not think of this? But I didn't know she was coming. I didn't know her. She told me on the door, like, hey, by the way, I'm deaf. And I didn't think. And I was like, oh my God, how did we miss that? And I mean, she taught me a big lesson. Like, if you ever want to teach yoga to a deaf person, you have to go up to them and help them with the positions, like move them, tell them when to close their eyes, tell them when to open them. Can't just leave them there and expect them to get it. And also you have to demo the positions, not just talk about the positions. So yeah.
It's all learning curves though, man. And it's being like figuring it out on the fly. Like you said, you get a deaf person turning up to yoga. It's like, oh fuck, I've got to figure this out. You know what I mean? And then you iron out the creases over time. And I think social media is a beautiful thing where you can just provide value, right? You just like, I think this is gonna help. Okay. And if no one like reads it and no one does anything about it, cool. But you've still like put something out that will help someone and it's still up there and you're like, okay, cool. This is like free help, I guess. Not just like, oh, I'm the Messiah, listen to me sort of shit. It's just been like, all right, this is a little bit of, I guess, like impersonal advice or experience. We said something with a good mate of mine that we had on here maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where it was like share, don't compare. So don't compare yourself to me or other people. Like, share your own experience because someone else might be able to relate. But then when you said about the making it a little bit more personal, that's where you can go into, you know, the YMCA and talk to people that may have maybe a little bit less fortunate with the old income, and they hang around there, so they get off the street. I'm like, all right, we're going to create a free kids program. Come in, just move around, you know what I mean? Get some demons out of your head and defeat them. Or you go to the local, I don't know, agency that works with autistic kids or autistic adults, and you just be like, hey, I want to volunteer my service in my craft with your clients. Why don't you come in? It's going to be completely free, you know what I mean? We're trying to still figure some stuff out and you learn on the fly. I think people really, I don't know whether it's a lack of confidence or what, or people are just afraid. People don't want to learn on the fly anymore. Like, everyone wants to be book smart where they know everything before they start. And I don't think that's the way to do it. I think the way to do it is just to throw yourself in the deep end and you're either going to sink or swim.
Yeah. I think at the moment, you know, it's hard to think of opportunities at the moment because everything over here is shut down. But when things start to reopen again, I think that's going to be a bit more on the forefront of my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, at the moment, I wanted to volunteer at Crisis at Christmas because 2 years ago I did, Crisis have this huge effort at Christmas where they open these big centers and they give homeless people everything, you know, meals and clothing and showers and haircuts and just everything to make them feel good at Christmas. And I was there just helping them to play games. And we ended up playing basketball in this school yard I mean, of all people to play basketball, I am probably like one of the least adept. But yet it was such a bonding experience with people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And, you know, between myself and then the homeless person, there's very, very little. There's a very fine line, you know, how you can become homeless overnight. And some of them were just super interesting to talk to with their life story. Literally, one unfortunate thing can happen to you and you're homeless. And it was absolutely fantastic. I'll never forget it. Just playing basketball and how much easier interaction becomes once you've played a game. You're then like buddies, you know, whereas before you were like, how am I going to talk to that person? I have nothing in common. And then you play one game and then you're like best mates. But I really think, yeah, you know, fitness, it doesn't need to be complicated, right? You know, we all can plan a simple workout for anyone from the community to get involved. But when things open up again, I think I'd love to take part in that stuff. I didn't tell you, like in between level 2 and now, I set up this little gym in Crete that is just for retreats and for, you know, anyone who's on holiday to use. And we had a little bit of interest from people who are just holiday makers in the vicinity. And they're like, oh, there's a gym there. Can I come and like drop in? And it's amazing how, I mean, it's not a lot of people that come through, but they will email and they're like, can I come? And my pal Mike Serbus, who's like ex-USA weightlifter, he's there with his wife, and he's like the most welcoming person you can imagine. And he's always like, yes, come in, blah, blah, blah. You know, and he helps people. He's like that pastor figure. I call him Pastor Mike. And he has a chat with people, and that's it. That's all it takes for people to feel like, right, cool, we can bond over weightlifting or whatever it might be that they are planning to do that day. But yeah, fitness is such a unifying thing, and I'm sure we can use it that way rather than create cliques or like gym cliques. Like now in London and in the UK, where gyms are shut, so people are training outside, you know, people see you train, so they're like, oh wow, cool. You know, this is what this person does and this is what this other person does. I remember once this guy turned up. I have a tiny little green outside my building, and this guy turned up with like weight plates hanging off of his, you know, hips.
Yeah.
And he was doing pull-ups, waiting. It was amazing. I was like, well, you'd never meet this guy if gyms were open. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm looking forward to fitness being again this unifying thing. If we can create language. Yeah, I'll give you one example where it's not. So, well, I think, I don't think CrossFit does a great job of that, because there are so many terms that the rest of the population doesn't use. In the same way that it brings together so many sports and it creates this one universal methodology for all these sports, that's fantastic. When you then try and explain that to the rest of the population, it becomes a bit more tricky. But I have like a personal, I would love for weightlifting in particular to become a little bit more accessible, especially to women. I think gymnastics, it's easy for women to relate to body weight training because most women have done body weight training at some point. And most women, I don't know, gymnastics is considered quite a feminine sport. So everybody loves watching the Olympics. And, you know, a lot of women have done ballet. I think women are very familiar with body weight movements, but with Olympic weightlifting, it looks different than it feels. Like it looks so intense, heavy, like almost alien, but it feels amazing. And you don't realize how it feels until you've tried it, until you've got to the point where you are allowed to try it physically. Like you're in a gym that teaches it, and you've got the mobility and the strength and the mental, basically, I don't give a fuck what people think, that kind of attitude. It took me all those things to try it. Like for the longest time, I was just trying to avoid weightlifting as much as I could, until the point where I just wasn't getting any better at CrossFit. And then once I realized how good it feels, I was like, why? Yeah, I wish it was more widely, if you pick up someone on the street and ask them what a snatch is, they won't have a clue, right? Or a clean and jerk. And I grew up in Greece, where Greece does really well at weightlifting. And at the time, I think we had like someone winning a lot of gold medals in the Olympics. But none of us had touched a barbell at school. Like I had never seen a barbell until I got to a gym, like at uni. And even then I didn't touch it. I think I didn't touch a barbell until I got to CrossFit, which is nuts, because it's not like you need a sprung floor or like any crazy apparatus. It's literally one barbell and some plates, and you can do it on the concrete. It's so simple. But yet, if you said to me as a kid, like, do you want to try weightlifting? I'd be like, are you joking? Like, I don't want to, I'm not a guy, I'm not a dude. And I definitely don't look like that dude that wins the gold at the Olympics. Nobody identified with that stuff. It wasn't accessible. It wasn't put into perspective that, hey, this is going to get you stronger. But yet women have back problems and osteoporosis problems, and it's because they don't have access to weight training early enough.
Yeah, man. And it's like saying, like, if you go down that argument, it's like saying, if you don't want to beat Usain Bolt in 100 meters, then you're not allowed to run. You know what I mean? And you're just like, well, that's a fucking stupid, like, statement. I mean, like, I think I'm really excited to see where women in strength sports and the whole stigma around women lifting weights. I'm really, really excited to see where that goes. I genuinely believe the gap between like male and female performance at the higher level will get so close. Like some of the shit these female athletes are able to do is just immense. Like you're just like, well, what do you mean? Like you had a kid like 6 months ago, and now you've just ran for 2 days straight and halved. There's like I think Jesse Isler first said it, and James Brown, he a good mate of mine. I ended up coaching for a while. He reminded me of it. There was like a lady who did like a 4-day race up in like up in America, like an ultra race. And she did it in half the time. She did it in like 2 days. And every time she stopped, she breastfed a kid. You know what I mean? You're just like, what do you mean, love? Like, how were you able to do that? And they basically like broke it down. It was just like because of the hormones after pregnancy and obviously adrenaline of trying to keep the kid alive, or those primal sort of instincts. It was like, yeah, the woman's basically superhuman.
Yeah. I love that story. I mean, we didn't have access to it because when I was growing up many years ago, the aesthetic goal was that women be small and small, in every dimension, in every axis, and so I remember even like 5 years ago, I was at a gym, not even 3 years ago, I was at a Globo gym. I had a few clients from Eastern European countries that didn't want to pick up weights, basically. I don't even want to say Eastern European. I had a few Russian ladies that didn't want to pick up weights because they would make them bulky. I 100% respect that. But it comes from a certain culture that, but yeah, yeah, it's amazing if we do give women the same opportunities, where we're going to get to. And I think, again, it's not about luxury. It's about sort of strength training will save you some really brittle bones later down in life, depending on your genetics and depending on what else you do. I think I'm lucky because my mum's side of the family generally seem to be doing okay with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fact, right? You lose bone density as you get older. The other thing is, it just feels, as someone who went from completely unathletic to athletic, the confidence boost is immense. And I think we could all do with, I don't know what people are going through in life, but we could all do with a bit more confidence that comes from within. So I can vouch that for a woman in particular, picking up heavy things is quite the boost.
Fuck yeah. You see it, like, especially like if a lady comes in and I don't want to use the word timid because that can be misconstrued, but they clearly have some sort of demon in the whole realm of confidence, right? And you can see that. You can see it just by her presence. And then the next thing you know, a few weeks later, she turns into the absolute badass, like just throwing this barbell around, treating it with absolute disrespect, like crushing the workout. She's come in, made a shitload of new friends. You're just like, what the hell have I just seen? Like, that is incredible.
Yeah. I can tell you, yeah. I think I had this conversation with my with a friend over Christmas. The reason CrossFit is hard, right? And the people come to it and stay in it for different reasons, but a lot of them are mental health reasons. I was bullied at school. I think in my school, a lot of people were bullied. It wasn't anything particularly noteworthy, but it left me with various scars about my body, and just I didn't want to be seen. And I didn't want to show myself because then I would be seen. And so I basically just wanted to hide. And I think CrossFit has absolutely smashed. Well, it's just challenging because you're constantly, part of me obviously wants to be seen. I think we all do. And then if you want to compete in anything, you have to show yourself. You can't compete in the dark. So it's challenging because half of me is like, I should not show myself, I'm gonna get bullied. It's like the demon. And then the other side of me, no, I'm badass. And so CrossFit sort of, any kind of competitive environment just has to bring it out of you, of like, no, I am worth looking at. So I think for people who have, like you say, any sort of timid tendencies, it's amazing. It's a huge medicine.
And I also think the focus on performance rather than how you look has really helped that. Because like if you walk into a CrossFit gym, right, or you go to a CrossFit competition, you might get like, well, she's fit or he's fit. But other than that, it's 3, 2, 1, go, and you're like, no one gives a flying shit what you look like. Like, you could be this absolutely gigantic fella, and I mean fat, not muscly, like this fat bastard, you know what I mean? But he could win the workout and everyone would be like, wow, that's awesome, that's so incredible. No one would be like, you need to lose weight. You know what I mean? Everyone's just focused on the performance. Everyone's like, oh, you got your first handstand, that's insane. Or the best one that I love seeing is the first ever box jump. That is like electric. Like, for someone to be able to break that demon and break that barrier in their head of like, I'm going to take off from this earth and my feet are going to land on this wooden box with pointy edges. And I'm going to stand my ass up and I'm going to be like, I'm going to be okay.
I remember various moments where that happened. I was like, no, I can't. And you have to go back, make the box shorter and then go back up, build it back up again. It's always a fun game to play.
And I think the physical stuff really helps because it's Bridges says it all the time with pay the man, right? I say it in a fact of like defeat your demons. Like everyone's got a demon somewhere. Everyone's got something that's pulling some sort of string in their head. Whether it is just the fact of like, oh, I'm having a little bit of a shitter day, or it could be like something absolutely severe, like I don't know, you've survived like a national genocide or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like everyone's got somewhere in between there. And by moving around, by using that universal language and by just sweating out and paying your dues a little bit, like you end up defeating them. And it's like, all right, give yourself a high five, slap yourself on the ass, do whatever you need to do and be like, hey, I'll see you again tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like you're a fucking badass. You walked through the doors or you did your 100 burpees in the morning or you went for a 10-minute walk or whatever your fitness looks like. Like you don't have to come into a CrossFit gym, right? We're just a little bit biased because we enjoy that environment and that pain that we kind of put ourselves through. But like if you wanted to do a Zumba, go to do Zumba. You want to do yoga, go do yoga. If you want to just walk, go just walk. But like by like physical expression, you end up defeating those demons.
You know what? You just made me remember like my first CrossFit gym experience. Every day was like that. And every day as soon as the workout was done, I didn't want to leave because it's a huge metaphor for life, that you're put in to challenge your demons. And there are very few other environments where you are so conscious of what these demons are because you're just faced with them throughout the workout. Like I could be having demons all day, but I guess, let me think. It's a real battle, right? It's you come face to face with them, and you got to beat them if you want to finish. You can always give less than, but then then
they're not gone. That's it. You've not defeated that demon for the day. Like you've been, think of a better term, you've been the bitch. You know what I mean? And like by it's going to sound so sadistic, but by putting yourself through that discomfort, right? You give that mental demon like a physical form because anything that's going on in your head is like an itch you can't scratch, right? You just can't really get it. You can't get to it. But if you give it like an entity of your shoulders are burning or this workout just sucks, like my heart feels like it's going to implode. It's like it's there now you can address it. You've kind of taken it from your head, put it to a bar or put it on the floor, or put it in a wall ball or whatever. And now you can defeat it. And sometimes your defeat for that day is going to be, or your win for that day is going to be going unbroken and absolutely destroying the workout. Then some days it's going to be, all right, I want you to come in and I want you to break one sweat. I want you to just move. And that's defeating your demon for the day. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, 100%. When you go through different phases of your life and you have other stresses, sometimes you come to the gym and you're like, I just want to sweat. Yeah. You're not ready to enter that competitive zone because you've already tackled like 5 other demons outside of the gym. But whenever, if you're in that place where you're ready to be competitive, then the gym is a hugely rewarding environment to be in. I'm now, I want to at some point do a weightlifting competition. I mean, it's funny me saying it now because I'm literally a beginner, but I want to see what that would be like. But I've started doing this Mindset RX program, which is basically journaling, but the journaling is on a curriculum, shall we say. So like it gets more and more advanced, or the prompts get more and more advanced as you as time goes by. So you have to do it every day. You have to journal every day, and someone will look at it and comment if they want you to go a bit deeper, like they'll probe a bit, or they'll just say like, well done, nice work. And it's amazing how I've never really tackled mindset in the gym until now. Like, for example, before CrossFit, I was running and I was always chasing something, but without much clarity. Like, okay, you know, I'm good with 5K, I'll do a 10K. I'm good with a 10K, I'll do a half marathon. I'm good with a half marathon, I'll do a marathon. And then when I'd done the 2 marathons, I then was like, well, I don't even know why I'm running. I mean, by that time I was already in CrossFit, so I had something else to shift my focus to. But I don't think I ever had a mental game with running. Like, I would lace up, get outside, finish the distance that I'd set out to do, and that was it. But I don't think I don't know, I never developed that. I never developed a hugely strong mindset. But now with CrossFit, I think it matters. It matters to me enough. Well, it's finally got to this point where I want to be competitive at something. And so I've set out a goal to, you know, get better at weightlifting, basically, and defined a couple of things I want to do. And it's amazing how if you focus on it every day, then every day there is a challenge to beat. So my struggle before was, I'm not strong enough for this. It's too heavy. I'm not going to pick it up. So I was just not getting stronger. Like, either I'm not strong enough, so I can't pick it up, or I'm going to pick it up and fail and look stupid, or I'm going to pick it up, fail, and get injured. And all those things were sort of my demons. And it's why I've not got stronger in a long time. Unless, you know, and in the odd occasion when in the Open in 2018, someone else put the weights for me on the bar and I didn't know it was on the bar, and I just picked it up and cleaned it. And that was my PR for the year. She probably thought, she can do that. Yeah. But if you left it to me, I just wouldn't. I would chicken out. So yeah, just working on the mindset is huge. I'm really passionate about this program. It's run by a guy called Tom Foxley, and I think it should be in every gym, you know. Like, I mean, of course, some people have come from other sports and they are already able to understand what it is that's blocking them and work through it. For me, I had to really learn what I need to be telling myself every time I lift something heavy. Mm-hmm. I can't just be thinking about the music or whatever. I still don't think I've fine-tuned it, but I need to tell myself specific things, like, I'm a person who lifts heavy things, and
Fuck yeah. Like, fitness makes you face your mindset. Like, you know, I was a swimmer, right, back in the day. So you spend hours looking at that black line in the bottom of the pool, and you have to tell yourself weird shit. You have to fucking talk to yourself, especially when they want you to do like 50 sets of 100 at whatever pace, and you're like, you want me to do what now? Like, I have 3 seconds rest on set number 1 and you want me to do it 50 times. They're like, yeah, and if you're going to throw up, do it outside of the pool and don't fucking miss your interval. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, you need to be able to like tell yourself some weird stuff. And then obviously ruggers, like, you've just got to be like, you've got to get back for your boy's just been absolutely smashed on the other side of the pitch. You're like, all right, I got to get there. And then weightlifting and CrossFit, it's like, yeah, you could think to yourself, this sucks. Like, this hurts so bad. Or you could just be like, don't be a fucking bitch. Sometimes you need to go dark, right? I've done a couple of posts on this a while ago. Maybe I'll do it again just to refresh it. This is a while ago. I don't think people like the way I say it though, because it kind of...
No. In my head, your Instagram is always about the dark place. So I think but maybe you don't go deep enough. Like, it's just a headline and then you leave it at that. And then you're like, see ya. Yeah. I think you need to flesh it out.
All right. So like, I don't know, like I used to say it in coaching a lot. Especially when I'd coach some weightlifting, right? Sometimes you need to be a little bit hairy-fairy with yourself and be like, it's okay, you can do this. Focus on the techers. Don't worry about the weight, or even when it gets heavy, come on, you can do this. Be a bit of a cheerleader for yourself, right? In your own head. And other days, you've got to say some pretty nasty things to yourself just to get yourself fired up. And it depends day to day, right? Some days you need to be your best friend, and other days you need to be the devil himself and punch yourself in the face and be like, look, you're going to fucking pick this bar up and I don't care. And like, I think people are scared to do the second one, right?
I had a coach who was said to me, if you don't, I don't know, clean this or whatever it was, you're not leaving this class, or you're not leaving this session.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
You're like, what do you mean? This isn't school. You can't do that.
Or, the worst that I've been telling myself a few times, it's like someone's life is depending on this. You got to do it. It's like that lift the car and save the baby kind of situation. I find it hard to get angry, but recently a coach said to me, if you keep doing this, if you keep thinking in this way, what's your life going to look like in 10 years time? And I was like, yeah, that's
Oh, that's
scary.
powerful.
Yeah.
That's real powerful.
So you have to, or, what has this belief done to you so far? It's kept me weak, man. It's kept me weak. I don't want to be weak. So I need to change my belief.
In the terms of aggression and that, I think of it as a light switch, right? If you flick the light switch on and you have it on all the time, like eventually you're going to run out of electricity. Like, I mean, growing up, it was like, look, when you leave a room, you flick the light switch off. We can't pay the electric bills. You know what I mean? Keep the electric bills down, sort of thing. So it's like, look, you're going to end up burning through your cash and you're not going to be able to pay for the electricity bill. So you need to flick it off. And most of the time it's going to be off because it's daylight, right? And then sometimes you're going to need to flick that light switch on. But as soon as you finish your set, you flick it back off again. So it's like, it's being able to harness it and challenge it, channel it, Jesus Christ, channel it in a way where you use it for you for a very short period of time, and then you just flick that switch back off. You're like, okay, no, I'm like a happy, cheery lady, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, all right, it's my set. You kind of get up, you flick it, make it a little bit warm. It's kind of halfway. As soon as your hands go on the bar, that's it. You can't hear anything else. And even if you can, it's kind of like bullshitting yourself if you just be like, nah, I can't hear anything else. And even if you genuinely can hear the music or whatever, you just say to yourself, I can't hear anything else. I'm deaf for this set of back squats, or I'm deaf for this lift. And you're just like, right, I'm going to go nuts. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then you flick it back off again. You sit down. Weightlifting is great. You get to sit down between sets.
Yeah, I need to practice this on and off, I think.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I think everyone, especially when you train weightlifting, right? I've made this mistake whenever I go through like weightlifting cycles and that, where you want to be pissed off all session because something's like wound you up that day and you're like absolutely fuming. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna like destroy everything. Next thing you know, 20 minutes into the session, you're burnt out.
You're exhausted,
and you're just like, oh my God, I can't lift the bar. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to go home. Give me a pizza. Rub my belly.
Someone walks in and you shout at them because you're pissed off.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, maybe I should have switched that off.
Yeah. Fuck you. They've just walked in. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So you got to be able to, I don't know, control it. It's like harnessing that bad wolf, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting learning curve this season. How to talk to yourself when you need to channel that aggression, or the sort of like, it's now or never, like, this is challenging, but I can do it. This is not something I've done before, but I'm someone who does hard things, or I'm someone who pushes a boundary, or I'm seeing that picture of myself as someone stronger, or someone who's, I need to pull the baby out of the car, or whatever it is that does the trick for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tia said it on one of the documentaries. I think it was a 2016. She just goes, Tia, if you're going to go now. Like, if you're going to turn it on now. If not, don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll repeat that. I've said that to many people in the past, or I'll just say, like, do or die. Like, we recently did like a Crohn's and colitis sort of lift for Crohn's and colitis thing, and you have to do a bit of CrossFit before going for like a max lift, right? And I was just like, oh yeah, max lifts, I'll jump in, no problem. And they're like, oh yeah, you've got to do like a workout before it. I was like, are you fucking joking me? Like, I'm here to lift, I'm not here to work out anyway. Like, you know, you kind of approach that barbell and there's 20 seconds left. I'm like, well, there's 20 seconds left. I'm either going to do it now or I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of giving you yourself that option, and then always being proud, no matter what. Even if you like don't even deadlift the bar and you're just like, oh, that's not coming up today. You're like, so what? I'm proud I put it on the bar and gave it a go, you know?
That's cool. At the end of the day, I sort of sum up the wins of the day, and sometimes I have 2, and sometimes I have 5, and sometimes I have like maximum 7. But you're right, it's about seeing even the tiny wins.
Small wins.
Yeah, like every single thing. Otherwise, you know, life gets harder.
Gets overwhelming, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's
yeah.
Overwhelming.
And I don't know, like even something like this touches on the guy who helped me, the guy who did my illustration, the front cover for the book, Alistair, a good mate of mine. He basically was in a bit of a shit place in Auckland, and he was just like, dude, you got to focus on those small wins. And he's like, all right, have you had a coffee this morning? And I was like, yeah, I woke up and drank a coffee, you know, like every morning. He's like, well, that's a win, dude. You drank a coffee. You like coffee, so you've drank one, and that's a fucking win. I was like, okay, cool. He was like, did you wake up this morning? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm like in front of you, you know. And he's like, exactly, that's a win. You're fucking alive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wise. I remember, I can't remember where I was in life. It was definitely pre-COVID, and I saw somewhere written, "Smile, you're alive. You've got options." It's literally best thing anyone ever said to me. We're alive. We have options.
It's probably one of those like signposts out of a hippie coffee shop somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like free hugs and stuff like that. Like what's my favorite one? Eat the cake, fat people are harder to kill. Or harder to kidnap or something like that. I'm like, that's brilliant. That's, you know, that's a bit of comedy on a Tuesday morning.
I didn't realize you were a swimmer, and I knew about the rugby, but I didn't know about the swimming. That explains it.
Back in the day, like I was competed from 7 to I want to say 13, 14.
Wow. Okay.
There was like a season where I did both. I swam and I played ruggers. So I'd like get up on a Saturday, I'd do half of my swim training, and then I'd go play a rugby match. But my love for swimming went, like, I was never going to be a swimmer, like a decent swimmer. I was more of a whale than a fish. You know what I mean? Like, gone with the days. Yeah. Like at 13, I was like 96 kilos. I gone with the days where I could kind of like get away with just like muscling through the water. Like kids were now like 6'5" and had just beautiful streamline and arms double the length of mine. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not that quick. Like, and I don't know. I just had enough. Like, I'd had enough of training, an hour and a half in the morning, and then so my school was really fortunate. We had a leisure centre attached to it, so I used to go train there, and then I'd have to do extra English in the morning because, like I said, my English weren't great. So I had to basically do extra schooling, which was, you know, for the special kids, as we call it. No, it's just I was just a late bloomer when it comes to that, and as were everyone else in the class, either a late bloomer or dyslexic or whatnot. So we just had to it just had to be broken down for us a little bit more, which was fine, which was all cool. And then obviously I did school, and then as I was home after school for about half an hour, and then I was in the car for an hour, and then I was training for like 2.5 again in the evening.
Credit to your parents who were, you know, driving you back and forth and all that.
Yeah, so I walked to school and did the swimming, and then my mum used to set me to train in the evening. I used to come home, do my homework, and by the time I'd done my homework, my mum was home. So I was like, I knew I had to do my homework in like 30 minutes because I was training all evening. And then she used to take me there. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, man. It was, I'm glad I did it, but my motivation to swim now is absolutely nothing. Like, if people don't go with me, I will not swim. Yeah. Like, I just can't be asked anymore. I spent too long in the pool.
But I think your mind, first of all, can I just say, I was a late bloomer when it came to reading. And so my dad coached me for a little while in first grade. He would record me reading, and then he'd play it back to me. And then I would listen to how bad I was, and I'd have motivation to improve. Bless him. But I think, like you say, with swimming, it's not so much whether you swim now or not. It was the mindset, the mindset gains, you know, that you went through that competitive environment and you learned whatever you learned. It doesn't matter if it's swimming or piano or, I mean, a lot of people will be jealous of your shoulder mobility from swimming, but it doesn't matter what it is. You end up learning how to cope in a tough environment, and that's literally what it's about at that age. But it clearly gave you, you know, an engine and mobile shoulders and all that. I mean,
I think dealing with adversity too, right? Because like when your heart is pounding at your chest so fast that you think you're going to die, like you genuinely would put money on the fact that you're not going to survive the session, is like you learn how to deal with adversity. And I think that's the point I use for coaching the youth. When I say, look, kids should do fitness because they learn how to deal with adversity. You're like, what do you mean? Are you going to like give them like a really tough life lesson? I'm like, no, the heart rate's going to be high. Like they have to fucking deal with that. They have to figure out how to deal with that. That's a really freaky place to be. And like people, I don't know, like especially now, people say like, oh, they have asthma, or they have this condition with their lungs, or that condition with their fucking heart and shit. I'm like, no. They just need to figure out how to breathe. They just need to figure out how to like calm themselves down when their body just doesn't know what's going on. Like, and you only learn that by getting in the arena and throwing punches, right?
Yeah, I thought that was a huge benefit of running long distances, actually, the whole breathing thing. And that's what taught me, I guess, patience, and maybe, as you say, maybe you become more stoic over time with I don't know what it's like to sprint, because I haven't really sprinted ever. So don't ask me. I mean, I know from CrossFit a little bit to just go super, super fast for a tiny bit, but I value I think the long distance running taught me how to be more stoic. Like, don't worry, this too shall pass, you know, find a pace, stick with the pace, and trust your breath. And even my thoughts would calm down after a while. Like I would just start with something and it would seem huge in the beginning, but then just from having a breathing pace and a running pace, my thought pattern I would be able to resolve it in a calmer way. Like, okay, this is the thing. Let's have a think about it. And nothing was such a big deal. Whereas obviously it was probably a product of breathing properly. Whereas, you know, when your breath becomes shorter and more shallow, things tend to escalate. Or when you're not breathing well, you know, things seem like a mountain. But yeah, I think figuring out your breathing is huge, right? And then being able to harness it, how many times, I think when you're told to sit still at a doctor's or wherever, and then you're like, yeah, I can hold my breath all day, man. Like, it's not a big deal. Just tell me when. But it's a good tool for staying calm in difficult situations. If things are not going your way, okay, I'm going to slow my breathing down and breathe deeply. Yeah, it's just a life skill.
I think doing the hard things is a really really good life skill to have, and like we say, like figuring it out on the fly, dealing with that adversity. Like that's why I love the Teddy Roosevelt quote about being in the arena so much. I was like, that's where the credit should lie, about someone who's actually throwing punches, duck, dip, and diving. You know what I mean? And figuring things out and taking the mud in the face, taking a few knocks along the way, like going down the wrong path and kind of turning into not a nice person and figuring it out and thinking, oh, like, no, this is the wrong one, turning around and coming back. I think, yeah, people are scared, especially because it's plastered on the media now. And I don't mean like mainstream media, I mean like social media, like everything's kind of accessible. But I think people are just being a bit more real of saying, look, I might just figuring this bullshit out. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect straight away. I think that's. I think people do appreciate it, whether they tell us or not. I think people will end up appreciating it and taking some sort of lift from it, and just being like, oh, okay, they're still figuring this thing out and whatnot.
Yeah. It's fun. I think that, I don't know. I mean, obviously the accounts that have like 1 million followers tend to be a bit showy, but there's always. I follow this guy, Brendan Burchard, who is a public speaker and a coach, but he, from looking at his account now, you wouldn't think that this guy at some point would struggle to speak, but yet he had a day one when he couldn't speak in public, and he had to have notes and like rehearse a billion times before he would press record. Everyone started somewhere. It's just that that somewhere isn't visible. Oprah had a day one when she was, maybe not quite so confident. And I think it's important to see. I always appreciate those, then and now posts of like, this is where I was, this is where I am now. Everybody started somewhere, and because so many people suffer from imposter syndrome of like, I shouldn't be here, I don't belong here, blah blah blah. Myself included, I think it's important to remember that everyone had a day one when they didn't know what they were doing, and they are still probably figuring it out. You just see it that way because you've just suddenly put them on a pedestal because they look confident, but they're still figuring it out, But yeah.
I completely agree, and I don't know if it's gonna give you any strength or whatever, but I struggle with the same thing, with that imposter syndrome. Like I always have done. Like, you know what I mean? Come from a working class family in northwest Manchester. I'm like, I shouldn't really be here. Like, my mum moved me to a better high school. So you're kind of surrounded by middle class people, and I'm like, I'm very different. I shouldn't be here. But then you find rugby, I found rugby, and we're kind of slotted in because I'm like, oh, he's an aggressive kid, he's all right. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I'm an aggressive kid because of a couple of demons. But anyway, that ended up coming into fruition a few years later. But then, like, yeah, still going. I went to the south. Like, you came from Greece to London. I'm sure you were like, I shouldn't be here. I was exactly the same, but I was just in my own country. I was like, this is so weird. Like, I remember the first, I'd say, 6 months of me working in the gym in the south. I had to repeat myself 4 times to the fucking Southern English people because they didn't understand me. Foreigners got me first time. Like, there's Portuguese, there was Spanish, there was Italian, Swiss, Danish. They all got me first time. Bloody Southern English, nah, they had no idea what I was saying. I was like, are you taking a piss?
Maybe they were taking the piss.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Like,
maybe they were to annoy you.
Well, it worked. No, but I think the point I was trying to make is like everyone I think has a sense of that imposter syndrome of being like, hey, I probably shouldn't be here, but that's the point. That is the place that you should be. Then, if you feel that way, that you're like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be here, blah blah blah. Then there's a lesson to be learned in that place that you're in, and
Yeah.
whether it works out or not, like being fired or whether you leave the corporate world or whatever, but you've definitely taken lessons from that.
Yeah. And it was at the tip of my tongue now, but I don't know. I think everyone is always winging it. You have to remember
Oh yeah.
everyone is always winging it, even if it looks so polished. It's not.
Mm.
It's just, it looks, everyone is working at things. Nothing is ever perfect. And I think everyone has something to offer. So we're all trying to learn from each other. We don't need to judge one another. You know, I think the imposter syndrome is just, you know, I read this in the first lockdown. I read this book called The War of Art, and it's about all the things that you sabotage yourself with, so that you don't face hardship, so that you don't do the thing that you're really meant to be doing. And it's distractions. And having the imposter syndrome is yet another thing that you self-sabotage with, so that you won't end up doing the work that you are called to do in this world. So he describes it as, he was a writer, he is a writer, he was meant to be writing, but he would put all these things in between. He'd get all these random jobs so that he wouldn't sit down and do the fucking writing, you know, the hard work that is challenging but is so fruitful. So that's how I look at it. You know, all these imposter syndromes and all these other demons are there to sabotage you from doing the work that you were supposed to be doing, that you were called to do. And for me, I think I was born on International Women's Day, and my mom always made a big point about it. And when I was a kid, I was like, Mom, nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody knows that date apart from you. And of course, since then, now International Women's Day is a big day. But back when I was growing up, nobody gave a shit. But I always think, what am I going to do for my birthday? And it's always like, there's some big march about women and equality and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to get on board with that, that one. And, you know, maybe do something that celebrates women and, you know, do something fun, but also do something fitness related. So who knows, if this year we're allowed to do anything, get together with anyone that isn't, you know, not on Zoom, I'm going to do something fitnessy with some girls, and just have a big, like, ladies party with weights.
Yeah. I can't wait for the day where, like, these things don't have one day where people feel it's okay to celebrate, you know, being a woman or female strength or being LGBTQ plus, or if I've missed anything, I do apologize. Like Black History Month and shit. Black History Month pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, there shouldn't be 1 month dedicated to learning about African heritage. Like, people should know about African heritage. And I do believe that if people like learn history as a whole, I don't mean like learning every single thing that happened. And obviously there's going to be things that are misstrued with historian bias. And also obviously history is written by the victors. But if people learn more about history, I think prejudice would go down the toilet. I think there'd be less like stigma around things. I think people would understand how their country actually works a lot more, especially in the UK. I'm like, what are you talking about? Immigration? Everyone for like a million years is an immigrant on this piece of land. We just all fought over this like muddy wasteland. You know what I mean? And then even America, you're just like, okay, like figure out who you are. Even coming over here, you're like, all right, well, the white people are European. You know what I mean? The fucking Maoris are from the Pacifica. Like figuring in that out, and then like the social integration, and then you become less ignorant to it. And I just can't wait for the fact of what, like, we don't have to just, oh, okay, we're going to throw out an olive branch and go, all right, women can get one day, or, you know, Black History Month can have 1 month, and then they'll shut up about it. You know what I mean? It's just like, for Christ's sake, can everyone just like get on with with each other? Like, it's been a while now, guys. Like, let's just stop this. You know what I mean? Because if everyone gets 1 day, we don't have enough days. You know what I mean?
And we're a lot further along than we were, 30 years ago. I think with these things are on a curve, and I think the curve is getting steeper. I think a lot, like I was saying to you, when I was growing up, there was no weightlifting option. There was ballet. Even if you were a guy, there was no weightlifting, but there was maybe later down the line. But now I see 13-year-olds in CrossFit and they lift ridiculous weights.
Insane. Yeah. You're like, sorry, what?
I still can't lift that. So
yeah, you're coaching a kid, they pick it up like this, and then the next thing you know, 2 months later, they're stronger than you. You're like, well, I quit. You know what I mean? Well, that's it. I'm out. Like, peace. These kids are gonna be insane.
Right.
Gonna be insane. But I also believe, like, you're gonna flip it on the head, right? And just be like, what are that quote unquote elderly population gonna look like? They're gonna be like fit humans. They're just gonna be 70 years of age, but can still pick anything up, do stuff. Obviously, their work age will end up going a little bit later, unfortunately. But I mean, I do believe people need a purpose, and when you stop mentally, you end up stopping physically. But like, people are going to be able to do stuff a lot longer, and then the amount of stuff they're going to be able to get done in their life is just going to skyrocket.
I mean, there is, what I'm excited about, because I really think the general population, I'm not sure if the general population is getting stronger, but I feel like the beauty standard is changing for women. And I feel like the standard of fitness for, like, as you say, for older people is also changing. That I'm excited about. But I don't know whether as a race we are getting generally fitter and healthy, because I see a lot of sitting, and obviously for as long as we have cars, trains, and we are doing desk jobs and things are done by robots, I don't see that changing. You know what I mean? Where back in the day, you'd have everything was manual, and now everything is done by robots, or by humans sitting. And so I think we need a change in lifestyle, just the basic lifestyle stuff the basic how we live, really. Like, this is probably off topic, but I went from a flat, when I moved flats this January, I decided I'm not going to have chairs in my new flat. And I know this sounds like funny for a Western lifestyle, but I was like, I'm done with chairs, because I know when I went to Japan at 19, we went to this tiny, tiny village, and there were no chairs. And we ate on the floor. We obviously slept in beds. And I think the rest of the time we were moving. There were no chairs. I mean, probably there were, but I just don't remember seeing. There were benches. We went out there to help a carpenter. It was amazing. And we were building benches for the park. But I don't remember people sitting in chairs. And I came back, and I wasn't in CrossFit for a long time, but I remember that sticking with me and thinking, okay, like, there are different ways to use your legs at home. And then I learned later, I learned about the Asian squat, and the difference between, and why the Asian squat is called an Asian squat is because people in Asia squat more because they don't have chairs. So I think, a kind of like furniture or lifestyle revolution needs to take place for us to use our bodies more. The standing desk is one such thing, and we need to be a bit more mindful of what we do with these 23 hours, how we live, really. Basic things. It doesn't need to be, we just need to like take care of our movement and just start adding movement back into our life. Otherwise, I don't see it happening. Like, I don't see us getting stronger in our old, like, of course you will be, but I don't see the general population becoming a healthier, happier, fitter, stronger, older person.
That's on us though, right? That's on us as coaches. That's on us as, I think everyone is a role model regardless of who you are, where you are, what you do. But that's on us to be able to, I guess, provide that information of there's another way to live. And this is the way of improving your wellness as a whole. I think the human race is a bit ignorant of the fact of like the pendulum. We go from one extreme to the other. And I think we'll end up reaching a point where, you know, I saw a statistic the other day, obviously, who knows whether it's true or not, but it was something like 42% of the American population is obese, right? And like we know, who knows if that statistic's real, but we know obesity is an actual problem. And it does piss me off, whether this is correct in saying or not, but it does piss me off saying that obesity is a disease. I don't believe it's a disease. I believe it's a social problem.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. Well, and like, where do you think it comes from?
Lack of knowledge. I believe humans are habitual creatures. You are basically a hologram of your habits. Like if I didn't have the habit of training, you would see it in my physical stature. If I didn't have the habit of writing poems, you'd see it as the fact of I wouldn't have the book. You know what I mean? We are just an expression of what we do daily, and what we repeatedly do. And I think obesity is caused by a lot of things. You know, you can go down the socioeconomic path of like shit, quote unquote, shit food full of like trans fats and all that sort of stuff, higher calorific foods, or being cheaper, i.e. Mackey's. And you can go down the fact of like it's hard to buy quote unquote organic, because what is organic in the Western world? Apart from here, basically everything is organic, everything's grass fed. You know what I mean? Like they've got land coming out their bloody ass. And then it's also generationally, yes, we're not moving as much, so that can come into it. But you look at the school meals, like look at free school meals in the UK, like they're eating shit. Yeah. Literally, like you put it on the side and it probably wouldn't go moldy for a long, long time. Like it's garbage, and you're feeding kids, and you're also allowing kids to not move, and you're also allowing them to like drink a Fanta bottle of 1 liter, 1.5 liters full of sugar. I'm just like, oh yeah, mate, because it's £1.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of things like combined together. Nothing is ever a standalone issue. Everything is a synergy of everything else combined.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it's a disease.
You know what's because coming from Greece, it was so, you know, you wouldn't pick up groceries in plastic. They were just sold as loose, right? And it was just so easy to pick stuff off of trees in the summer when we would go, you know, to the farms, to the villages, to the beach. It was easy enough to have that close relationship with the land where, all right, here's some fruit, we can pick it up and eat it. And it's there came a point where I guess in England, you know, it was more desirable to buy canned stuff, you know, back in the 50s. Oh, you know, canned is better, or like white bread is better. And now I don't know, you know, maybe there was a point where McDonald's was like, it's cool, you know, for kids, it's cool to go to McDonald's. And the standard now has changed. Like I know that uni students drink less than they did before. And they're more health conscious than they were perhaps 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. So I think it's the standard. If we can just create a standard where it doesn't need to be expensive, It just needs to be real food coming from real trees, real farms. And I don't know, I'm in a scheme where, I get loose produce in a box from a farm. It's not particularly expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not more than you'd pay at Tesco's. But it comes from a farm in a box, and I don't need the plastic. And so I don't know. I think, like you say, it's education and it's setting the standard. So that is what is desirable. Like picking something off of the tree or from the farm is, should be the desirable standard rather than buying it out of the supermarket or going to McDonald's.
I like the whole discussion and the challenge of the class system, right? That's where I like to pick my battles, because obviously, being from Manny, like things are a little bit rough. And it's the fact of like, look, people do grow up broke, like absolutely broke, and they can't afford anything. So they're going to buy, those yellow stickers where it's reduced because it's gone out of date a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're going to buy it because it's 12p a sandwich or, 30p a bloody chicken breast. And like, you kind of, malnutrition is a serious problem. Like you get all those campaigns in the UK every year, right? Donate money. Like if you don't donate money, you're a fucking asshole. Like they pull on your heartstrings and put it to this charity, that charity, to go send it to, or quote unquote, send it to kids in India, Bangladesh, Malaysia, like Africa or whatever. And I'm like, hold on a minute. UK is a funny one because there's such a divide between the north and south. Like it's insane. And to be honest, I only really acknowledged and saw the difference once I moved south. And I was like, things are fucking different. Like, what is going on? And it's funny because I kind of use the analogy every time. It's like if I drive down the motorway, right? I start off in Manchester, and I'm like, I could go to a petrol station and I can buy like a bottle of Coke for maybe like £1. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll pay £1. And I get to like Birmingham, I get to like Midlands, and it's like 150. I'm like, all right, they've added 50p because, I don't know, they talk a bit different and the Midlands is a weird place. And then I get down to the south and I'm like paying like 220, 230. And I'm like, it's the same bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know, mate. Like, I think that goes into politics and I don't know a great deal about it. So if I'm uneducated on it, I can't necessarily give my opinion. But providing things at a cheaper price that isn't absolute garbage, especially for the youth. Like if you feed the youth shit, you're going to get shit as your general population in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years, in 50 years, whatever. Like you're basically just shooting yourself in the foot and telling yourself to go run a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know enough about it either, but I think the simplest thing we can say is try to eat unprocessed stuff. So, bag of almonds is going to last you a long time, but it's better to eat almonds than to eat, I don't know, any kind of snack, any kind of like crisp. Just go for the almonds because it's how God made it. Whereas God did not make crisps, they were made in a factory. Just that very simple fact of like, if it looks like, how it grew on the tree, that's how you should have it. I don't care where it's sold. I don't care, if they've, basically try and eat unprocessed. And if it looks like something that was made in a factory, avoid. And maybe you'll have less variety.
That's sparked something in me, to be honest. I think my thing would be education then. Like you do what you have to do to survive, right? When shit hits the fan, if you fall over, you get back up, right? No matter how many times, because if you don't, you're just gonna lie there until you starve to death. So you do what you have to do to survive, whether it is like you work 4 jobs to pay your rent, or whether it is you pay a little less money because you don't have it to eat whatever you have to do to give yourself food. But educate yourself. Like, I don't think especially now, I don't think there's an excuse for lack of education. Like, you can take the initiative on yourself and go learn shit. Like, go to the free library and go learn things about nutrition. So then when you are no longer in that position of scrimping and scraping for pennies, you can make those wise decisions, which might cost you 20p more. But for some people, that 20p is like yes or no. It is, I have it or I don't. And obviously over like 100 different products, it adds up. But I just say educate yourself, so then we can all take those steps and climb the ladder and live a better life. And sometimes you do have to do what's needed to be done to
you know what I found really confusing in the fitness industry is that I think, I had no concept of health growing up, but the one thing we did have is we ate well because we ate unprocessed stuff and always fresh, and it was always local and it was always seasonal because we didn't have fancy anything, it was literally like from the grocers and from the farm. And I think what confused me and puzzled me in the fitness industry is that there's so much packaged stuff. Like, you go to a gym, you see Knockos and Fit Aids. And no disrespect to those companies, but that's not it's not fresh produce to me. It's not unprocessed food that nutrition is about. And there's a lot of when you go to Holland and Barrett and you go to the there's just so many protein snacks and stuff like that marketed, packaged to make a good impression on you, that I don't know, I think maybe gyms could take more of a stance on that. Because having a smoothie bar is fantastic. Not everyone can afford it, but then at least you're, I don't know, pressing fruit into something. Then you're drinking it fresh there and then, boom, sorted.
Or even like, I don't know, having a fruit bowl where people can just take a banana, you know what I mean?
Like you're not messing with your gut in any way. And you're not putting artificial stuff in your system. And I think, I don't know, like obviously everyone has to make money somehow, but I found that really confusing. Like if I'm meant to be getting healthier, surely I should be eating more natural.
I think that's why you're seeing a growth in the whole holistic health at the moment. Like I'm to be honest, I'm probably a bit of a hypocrite with it, but I'm massive into the holistic health. But I don't, if I drink like a Fanta Zero, I'm not really going to sweat about it. Like, but if I'm ill, I like focusing on my teas, in the fact of if I'm ill, I'll make some sort of like blend of green tea. So I usually go like Japanese green tea, ginger, lemon, and a little bit of honey, right? And I'll just like put it in a pot and let it ferment for like 3 days. And the next thing you know, you absolutely just neck that down you, and you feel wicked the next day. If you're a bit wired, like I do the same thing, but I take out the ginger and I put in chamomile and take out the green tea. So I have like chamomile, lemon, and sometimes honey if I want it sweet. If not, I get a little bit of bitter from the lemon. And yeah, it just switches you off. And I like all that holistic stuff. And I think that's why you're going to see a big rise. But then that sort of touches on a different issue of like Western medicine is reactive medicine rather than
we need to tackle that one. I think now with COVID, we need to talk about that one. Yeah, I mean, yes. And it's not really medicine, it's sickness management. I think you saw a lot of posts this week, right, on Morning Talk Up, and everyone's been trying to send out the message. But what is bizarre to me is that in a free market and in a world where there is freedom of speech, a lot of these messages of like, we are trying to manage sickness rather than promote health. A lot of these messages are being censored, and the people who are spreading these messages are being stopped and censored. But yeah, this is what it is. Medicine seems to be about treating diseases and preventing death, but it's not. Life is not about preventing death. It's about, we're about promoting, prolonging, and improving life. Not about trying to prevent death. Like, God forbid if that was our mission. Hey, let me stop you from dying. I mean, there is that too, but I'm not on the verge of dying, and neither are you. We're trying to get stronger so that we live longer, happier.
I think that's where our industry is now going to expand, and we're there to help mitigate and help ease the stress on healthcare systems like the NHS, which are incredible. Like, I think they are the spine of every country. I think hospitals and healthcare system is awesome. Yet I think there should be more of and I don't think the whole Instagram sort of booty builder guide, I don't think that helps. You know what I mean? Although I probably could have made a lot more money if I just started posting pictures on my ass on Instagram. But hey ho, there's always another day. I think the coaching scene is going to go more into mitigating and helping people. You know, we've seen that spectrum, right, of the fitness, wellness, and illness. I think that's going to be more apparent in years to come. And
I don't know gyms are shut over here, and no one is making no politician that I've heard has made the point that in a sick society, or in a society that is where the immunity is low, we need to get everybody stronger.
Fuck politicians. Like, are they the ones that make the change? Like, see, this is where I'm a little bit socialist, right? Because our politicians are the ones that make the change. Yes, they're the ones that kind of pass the bills. But if they pass a bill, does it really do anything? No. Like, it doesn't stop us going out on the street and actually making the change. It's the people that make the change. It's like, it's the people saying, nah, I've had enough of this bullshit. Like, this is now my job to look after my little bubble, as now it's been phrased, of like, got to look after my neighbor's mental and physical well-being, and we're now going to spread that. And I think the industry kind of needs to take over and take responsibility in that sense. And then bloody MPs are like 5 years down the line, they'll be like, oh, everyone's already doing this, we should probably pass a law. And I'm like, yeah, brilliant, Mr. Eaton, you can fuck off, because we've been doing it for the past 5 years. Just go pass it. No one cares.
Yeah, it's just I'm a bit pissed off because gyms are shut, and
yeah, for sure,
it's the place where we create health before we need to manage sickness. And I mean, I'm not pissed off in a big way, because I think if you limit resources, people become more resourceful, and if you limit options, people become more determined, and we will find ways to train and stay healthy. But I'm just annoyed that it wasn't it wasn't spread through the government. It wasn't acknowledged that this is how we make people stronger and more resilient and more immune and happier, and we mitigate all kinds of social problems. And if anything, I would subsidize gyms rather than trying to limit their resources and force some of them to close. I mean, there will be something stronger will come out of this, but I'm just, yeah.
It all comes from discussion though, right? It all comes from having these debates and these conversations and be like, hey, can we iron out the kinks, and how can we become better and do things better? And I think, especially now, people just need to go to healthcare workers and say, hey, you're the ones who are fighting the front line of this. I couldn't give a fuck what the MP says. What do you need us to do? What is going to help you fight this? And if they say jump through a firing hoop with your ball sack hanging out, then do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're the people that are fighting it right now. So they need our immediate attention. And then once that ends up going and we end up coming out of the arse end of this whole pandemic, fingers crossed it's anytime soon and no more people have to lose their lives from it, then we can all continue the discussion, but also try things and do it on the gym floor and do it outside and more boot camps. And hopefully people are like, all right, I need to care about wellness a bit more. I'm going to do those smoothies and eat that apple rather than smashing that chocolate bar at the back. And, and then you can see a little bit of change. But I think it doesn't happen overnight. And I think it just takes genuinely not caring about the government and what they say, and just be like, look, we're just going to do our thing and help the person next to us, and just try something new.
Amen. Preach it, brother.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to have to shoot because I've got the next one in 17 minutes.
That was pretty long, eh?
No, it was absolutely wicked, mate. I always learn a lot when we have a conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
Okay, well, don't leave it 5 years, okay?
I won't leave it 5 years, no. All right, we'll have another conversation soon.
Yeah, take care.
All right, peace. Look after yourself.